Today's topic for analysis is Date, a story found in episode 6 from 16 minutes and 10 seconds and is based on the manga's 53rd chapter. A question worth asking right out the gate is, what is Date about? That's an easy question to answer on a surface level. It's about Takagi and Nishikata eating ramen together. But I mean, in terms of the entire show and the overall narrative being told, what is the point of Date? I would argue that it's a story about the status quo and how Takagi ever so slightly changes aspects of it to further her ultimate goal. We begin the story comfortably within the status quo, the pair buying snacks together and Takagi making her decisions based on the understanding that she will be sharing them. The status quo begins to shift when Takagi points out that their post-dodgeball meal is their first time eating together. Nishikata attempts to ignore the implications of this, but Takagi does not let him. Whenever Takagi has tried to change the status quo in the past, she has always succeeded. For example, she successfully changed the status quo in Empty Can, by normalizing the idea of walking home together, which becomes the setting of several stories, some of which are the show's most iconic. Takagi wants to make eating together a part of their status quo, and she cannot do this unless she explicitly brings up that this is a first for them. It's clear that she had this thought the moment she picked up the ramen, and she deliberately didn't bring it up until they were sat down, possibly to prevent Nishikata from changing his mind while he still could. Something worth discussing is the contrast between Takagi choosing her snacks and choosing her ramen. She chose her snacks based on what Nishikata got so that she could share with him. The ramen, on the other hand, is not something to be shared. Choosing the same ramen as Nishikata could imply that Takagi wants to have a shared experience. She often enjoys the same things as Nishikata and makes an effort to learn more about his passions. So she either chose that ramen to communicate to Nishikata that they have similar taste, or she wants to experience something that he claims to enjoy. An interesting comparison to the manga chapter this story is based on is the absence of a running joke, where Takagi offers Nishikata a challenge wherein the loser gives their Naruto to the winner. In the manga, this could be seen as Takagi trying to help Nishikata to contextualize their shared meal as a challenge, which makes its absence from the anime a point worth mentioning. I would imagine that it was cut from the anime adaptation because Takagi's motivation is to make this something they can do without Nishikata being on guard, so associating eating together with a game might have been counterintuitive to that goal. So what's the significance of the pair being walked in on by Takeo and Kimura? Well, it's here to set up another conflict for Nishikata. He's certainly aware that despite his feelings, it looks like he is on a date with Takagi. He understands this to the point where he immediately assumes that his friends will see it that way. Another reason is to give us some insight into Nishikata that we never really got before. If you recall Empty Can again, when Takagi asked to walk home with Nishikata, his first reaction was to look around for classmates who might have gotten the wrong idea. Of course, in that status quo changing moment, there was no one around, but in this status quo changing moment, there is, and we get to see exactly how Nishikata would want to react and how he actually reacts. Last point worth making is the difference between this changing of the status quo and the one we saw in Empty Can. In the first part of Empty Can, the changing of the status quo was pure, just a way to spend more time with each other as friends. But towards the end of Date, Takagi heavily implies that the nature of this status quo change is being done to easier facilitate going on dates when the time comes. Sure, in the short term, she just wants to eat with Nishikata more often, which we see them doing in Camping Trip, Souvenir, and Summer Festival. But in the long term, this is Takagi preparing Nishikata for actual dates. And as we will see in episode 12, she kind of succeeds. And that is it for this analysis. A short one, I know, but I can assure you that I will more than make up for it with the next analysis. Thank you to Orion Tran for supporting me on Patreon. If you'd like to join Orion or see the outtakes for free, you can do so via the links in the description. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time.